Are you a brand who has considered expanding your Google paid efforts into an international market? Well, in this video, we are going to talk about the potential impact that an expansion like that could make on your business. We're going to tell you about the types of brands and industries that do really well in an international market through sharing some experiences and case studies that we have had with our own clients. We're going to talk common pitfalls, and definitely stick around to the end because we're going to share our top 3 countries that offer the biggest opportunity for most brands. I am Matt, speaking to the marketing industry's top talent through the world-class growth agency Jump 450. Today, we are speaking to Google Ads expert and acquisition manager, Eric Herzog. Eric, thank you for being here today. Why don't we just start with, why should people be expanding their Google efforts internationally? What impact will this make?
Yeah, there are 2 main reasons that we love testing internationally. The first one being that it's just cheaper. The cost of advertising outside of the US is significantly cheaper and poses such a huge opportunity for really improving the efficiency of your Google ad campaigns. And then the second one is you just have a bigger market, right? The US is only whatever it is population-wise. There are so many more people that you can try and reach and grow your business by going internationally. And so between these 2, it's cheaper and there's more people. We think it's a huge opportunity that you should test into.
Right. So we have been trying this with our clients. What kind of impact have we seen? When you say cheaper, do you have some numbers or some data?
That is a great question. So one of the things that we're seeing that is really making us excited about these international markets is cheaper CPCs. So one thing that we're seeing for the same keyword in the US, average CPC we're seeing is around $9.93 per click. That same keyword in the UK, we're seeing it around $5.23 or $5.23 per click. And then for that same keyword in some other countries, we're seeing it as low as $2.88. So again, that's a pretty big difference in advertising costs for that same keyword, where the only difference is the country that it's being targeted.
Right. And do we have a sense of the size of the market that we're going out to?
Yeah, it's significantly larger, right? I mean, the bulk of our investment is still in the US because that's where we have high conversion rates. We still get a huge customer base there. But some of these other countries, we're generating, tens of thousands of clicks a month. And we're paying, for example, like Brazil, we're seeing 58-cent clicks. Whereas in the US, we're seeing like $4. So again, it is smaller volume, but when you really factor in all of these different countries, they outweigh the size of the US in aggregate, and it's significantly cheaper to advertise there.
So Eric, obviously all different kinds of businesses and companies, like there are lots of reasons to do this. And there are also lots of reasons I think that keep people shy from expanding to other countries. What types of businesses do we see do best internationally, and why do you think these?
Great question. So the ones that we really see successful are any digital product, right? There's no actual shipping fees, anything like that to worry about. Somebody can just get the product right there on their computer. So digital products are huge. Any type of software, SaaS companies, anything that can still just be distributed digitally. We see strong performance. Subscription-based companies is a big one. Anyone who's got an app, right? As long as that product, you don't have to worry about actual shipping costs or getting a physical product to somebody in, who knows where across the world. So yeah, if you run your business primarily from a digital perspective, going internationally could be a huge opportunity for you to grow and expand.
And similarly, what are maybe some companies or rather industries or types of companies that this is not a great tactic for?
Yeah, so anything that requires a physical product to get delivered. I don't know why first thing I think of is like couches, but if you sell furniture, going internationally would be very challenging, right? Just given the cost to ship your product to a customer all the way across the world, it doesn't really make sense to do that. If you provide local services, if you're like a landscaping company or you provide roofing service, anything that requires you to physically be there, I think that's really the key word in all of this, right, is physical product, physical service. That's just going to make things challenging. If you sell a digital product or provide services digitally, going international is a huge opportunity.
Right. So Eric, we're talking about primarily Google, running on Google
Yes.
International here. So are there any like specific strategies or like what tactics have you seen work really well in doing this?
One thing that I really like to do is to really test the efficiency of specific efforts is to build out the same campaign. Let's, keep it simple. We've got, let's say it's a search campaign. We're bidding on 5 keywords. Let's have that same campaign target the US, target another country, a couple other countries, run them all at the same time and just see the difference in advertising costs. So that's one strategy that I really like because you're minimizing variables, right? The only variable that you're actually testing there is the country. So that's something we've seen work well in terms of just getting an understanding of the actual cost of advertising in these different countries. Some of the other things that we've put in place that really relies on your own data, like you're paying for this data, you might as well leverage it as many ways as possible. So look at your backend data. If let's say you are running globally, really being able to get granular with it and see what type of performance you're getting from these different countries, breaking those out, maybe you're just running one campaign that's targeting globally, being able to get that granular data, see the performance by country, and then let's say, oh, hey, wow, look at Mexico. The conversion rate from Mexico is really strong. Our advertising costs in Mexico are really low. Let's try putting Mexico into its own campaign, running media targeting Mexico specifically, and see if we can get similar results. So I think it really just comes down to how you analyze your own data, take some of those learnings and insights, and maybe it's just a hunch. Like we're seeing in aggregate that a lot of X country is performing really well when it's grouped together. Let's try breaking things out and pushing spend there, right? I think that's one of the biggest optimizations that you can do within any Google ad account is you find something that's working well. Let's try and get as much spend to that component. In this case, let's get as much spend to that country as possible and see if performance holds.
Now, Eric, maybe we can talk through some things that people should be mindful of when doing this because it's not foolproof, correct?
Exactly. So it's definitely not for everybody. A couple big things to be mindful of. One is the language, right? Can your product be localized? Does it need to be localized? And what we mean by that is, our product is in English. If we're going to go start targeting Japan, do we have to completely change the product and put it into Japanese? If so, we're going to have to change the landing pages, the actual language within the product itself. That could be time consuming. It could get expensive. And you're also going on a hunch, right? Like if we change the entire language of our product into Japanese, into Korean, whatever it is that even going to resonate with the users in that country? So that's really the first thing to be mindful of. On that point too, though, does your product even need to be localized? We've tested it for clients where we've run localized ads, localized landing pages, and we've seen worse performance from that perspective than if we just keep it in English. A lot of the world speaks English. And one thing too is if you localize the ads, localize the copy on the landing pages, the website, but then the language of your product is still in English, there's that disconnect. So you're getting users to, the 3-yard line, and then they're like, oh, wow, the product is in English, even though everything else was in my language. This product isn't for me. So by starting out with just keeping everything in English, keeping that flow in one language, users right away know that the product is going to be in English. So that's one way to really try and, hedge your bets around localization.
Just real quick on that point, because I don't know this. If I were, let's say I'm listening to this talk and I'm thinking, actually my service falls really in line with what he's talking about. It's digital, and I think this could maybe work, but I don't know about the language piece, right? Do you think that it's worth the initial test where it's low lift, it's low hanging fruit, I just keep everything in English, I put out a small test and I give it a try? I mean, is that sort of the approach?
Totally. I think that's a great approach to take. It's like you're listening to this podcast, you kind of hit all of those requirements or prerequisites, I guess, of, maybe I am a good candidate to run internationally, I say go for it. And the thing is, too, you could also target countries that speak English. You could target the UK.
Right.
You could go after Canada. You can go after Australia. I was trying to think of another one that spoke English, right? So you can still go after countries that speak the same language as that first test. See how that performs. Let's say you do get really strong performance. Now let's actually try going after countries that, the native language is something other than English, but has a high density of English speakers. Something like Germany, like France, anywhere in Europe, people are taught English in school. So I think it is a huge opportunity and definitely worth the investment, because you can see through all of this that, maybe there are some pockets that actually do work really well for your business. And now you've just unlocked an entire new market.
And if I was going to go out with that initial test, how much do you think I need to be spending to sort of get the information that I need?
That's a great question. I think for a business owner listening to the show who is thinking about doing this, you don't want to overextend yourself. So I think anything that you would be comfortable investing as a test is a good starting off point. Maybe that's 5% of your total media investment. Maybe it's 10%. Something that you would feel not comfortable, but you wouldn't be strapped for cash, or, that would really impact your business if it completely flopped. So it's kind of like investing in crypto, right? Like you're investing in it knowing that it could very well go to zero and you're okay with that. I think it's, kind of that same approach to testing internationally. Is this could hit the jackpot and this could be huge for us. And if it doesn't work, we're still going to be fine from a financial perspective.
Great. Eric, any other reasons that people should maybe be mindful of expanding here? Because it's sounding pretty good to me. It's sounding like it's worth the test.
Yeah, the things that we're seeing, which is also why we still advertise a significant portion in the US, is foreign countries have generally low conversion rate, is what we've been seeing. So yeah, you're paying significantly less per click. Like in that Brazil example, we're paying 66 cents a click, but the conversion rate in Brazil is significantly lower. The other thing too that we're seeing is low retention rate. So let's say you do have a subscription business where you offer a free trial. You're going to get a lot of people in these foreign countries signing up for your free trial. How many of them are actually going to retain as customers? What we see is it's significantly lower than the US. So one way or another, you're paying for it. Like in the US, we're paying up front for the traffic, knowing that we have higher conversion rates, higher retention rate.
Right.
But we're also okay with paying 80-90% less to target somewhere like India, Turkey. They don't convert as well and they have lower retention rate. So but it still balances out because of how much less you're paying for advertising. So I think low conversion rate, low retention rate are two of the big ones, just from like a performance standpoint of things to look out for. And then also, I think one that's less performance but still important is your brand image. Because
right.
there are certain brands that the actual brand name means something completely different in a foreign language. You're pushing media, you're advertising your brand in that country. So that's also just something that I think is worth being mindful of, is what does my brand name mean in a foreign country that I'm going after? What does it look like? And how will I feel if it isn't, interpreted the way that we want it to? Right? So those are really the three big things that I think are worth keeping in mind when going internationally, but also don't want those to prevent anyone from testing international markets.
Eric, really excited to hear this. Top 3 countries where we sort of see the biggest or broadest opportunity.
Yeah, so the top 3 that I'm extremely bullish on are Brazil, Turkey, and India. The reason why: traffic is really cheap. They're emerging markets, high density of English speakers, and I think it's worth pursuing.
Absolutely. Anything that we should be careful or cautious of within those 3?
I think the big one, India, we're seeing low conversion and low retention rate. So we're going into India a bit more cautiously, but advertising costs are super cheap. So the cheap advertising costs could be, could balance out with low conversion rate. So that's just something we're keeping an eye on. But again, I don't think it's worth shying away from just yet.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for all of the good information today. Anything else that you wanted to leave us with?
Yeah, I mean, I think really the big thing is just, know your business. You obviously know your business better than anyone. And if you think that you fit some of these criteria to test internationally, I say go for it. It could be a huge opportunity just waiting to be unlocked for you.
Awesome. Eric, thanks so much. And if you are listening and you're interested in expanding your own Google efforts into international markets or just exploding your own digital growth, you can get in touch with Jump 450 in the link below in the description. That is www.jump450.com. And don't forget to subscribe for more weekly episodes. We'll see you next time.